When it comes to searching for your next role, being qualified is just not enough. If you find yourself out of work or you're trying to uplevel your career, this is the episode for you. I am joined by Gina Riley. She is the founder of Gina Riley Consulting and the author of Qualified Isn't Enough. Gina dives into what CEOs and hiring managers are looking for when it comes to qualified candidates and how you can stand out if you're thinking about jumping ship or finding that new role. All right, Gina Riley, my friend, thank you so much for returning to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I cannot wait to have this conversation.
I just looked and you were on episode 37. So you were one of my first guests about 3 years ago. And then we became such good friends right off the bat and support each other in our businesses. And now you have a book too. But why don't you tell our listeners what you do, what your business is all about, and then we'll get to the book.
Yeah, so highlights real quickly. I come from HR experience in corporate. I'm a former Intel alum. I worked there about 10 years. I also work for an executive search firm, Talents Group. I'm affiliated with them. I have led CEO searches, COO, CFO. I have been in the boardroom and I've heard what those board members and executive team members say when we're going through a candidate vetting process. So I know what the biases are, and I know where candidates at that senior level make mistakes.
Mm.
Then fast forward, I'm now a career coach. I created my own coaching model. It's called Career Velocity. It's 9 steps. And that is what I have converted into the book, Qualified Isn't Enough. And the book is really an answer to this question that you and I hear, because we talk to a lot of people who are in some kind of a career transition or navigating to the next. I'm answering this question. I applied to 200 jobs in the last 2 months. I didn't get a call back, and I was qualified for all of those jobs. But here's the reality. Being qualified is the minimum bar to entry to those conversations. You need to develop your unique value proposition and story. You're crystal clear.
Yeah.
And then you set about the marketing and the networking and the referral building.
Qualified Isn't Enough just released, so it's out there. Listeners can go and grab a copy. And in the book, you really dive into what they need to be able to be seen by this hiring manager and actually get the job.
Absolutely. I think that a place where a lot of job seekers start, especially when the job search process lasts for a long time, is they start to have eroded confidence. And they're wondering, is it me? And what am I doing wrong? And then they resort to this, what we call spray and pray, apply, apply, apply through those applicant tracking systems. And the problem is you're cluttering up those systems along with hundreds and thousands of other people for any given job.
Right.
What I find is first, you build your confidence with your unique story. And it's not a lot of blah, blah, blah storytelling. What I'm talking about in this book, and I give you all the steps, are the exact kinds of things you need to draw from your experiences that you'll be talking about. And why, Shannon, do we do this? It's so that we know exactly what we're targeting and we know exactly what we're asking for when we're talking to our network. Because if we confuse our network, they can't refer us.
Absolutely. Do you see that? Because you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Do you see people confusing their network by posting things that aren't relevant or asking the wrong questions? Have you seen that a lot?
What I would say is on LinkedIn, what I actually see is a deficit of posting and a
Mm.
deficit of thought leadership. So that's actually the end cap to my book. It's chapter 9, which is how do you stay relevant and seen as an authority for what you do in your space? And I think a lot of people shy away from that. And I give some pretty easy and actionable ways to become and be seen as a thought leader without worrying about being on a TEDx stage. You and I are thought leaders because we express our opinions publicly, and you can still express your opinion publicly through comments. Currently today, LinkedIn is loving comments and you're getting visibility on those comments. I think more people are buried and hidden and waiting to be plucked from obscurity. I'm
Mhm.
great. Why isn't anyone noticing me? And back to what you just said, where people are confusing their messaging is not first having a clear target. They have multiple targets. I can do
Mhm.
anything. I'm a Swiss Army knife. And then the resume and the LinkedIn don't actually match. And when people
Oh,
go
that's
to
so
look,
frustrating to me.
So you go to the LinkedIn profile and you may have a resume as an application. You're like, I don't get it. I'm working with someone right now, former Intel alum, who is experiencing this exact same challenge. It could be 3 jobs they want to go for.
Right.
The resume and the LinkedIn are all not congruent.
And you want those to be congruent. It backs you up for that job that you're applying for. Because yes, you can do something else, but if you're not showing those qualifications in your resume and on LinkedIn, you're not going to get that call.
They're not. You
Yeah.
confuse the message, you confuse the person reading it, and they will keep moving because
Mhm.
everyone's attention spans are short, and it's on us, the job seeker, to have clarity first.
Right.
Yeah.
Even on LinkedIn, if you are going through a transition, we could talk forever about the amount of layoffs and restructuring that's happening in our country right now. But throughout all of that, you can say, hey, I've been let go. I'm open to work. I'm looking for this.
Mhm.
But are you telling people the role that you're looking for? Are you talking like a thought leader and saying, I'd be perfect for this role, and asking your connections and your network outright for help? You need to be doing that.
You need to be specific and clear.
Hmm.
And you need to be relevant to the target audience that you're appealing to. And I have seen those open to work pleas, if you will. And I think they're very valid. Done right and done well, people will notice. And people who know you will then start to think of you and refer you. But I've also seen those lame ones, I'm sure you have too. Hey guys, I just got laid off. Hair twirl, hair twirl. If you think of me and you see something, let me know. That's the biggest miss that you could possibly have with that kind of a captive audience.
Hmm.
Don't do that. No one's going to think of you and pluck you out of obscurity. You need to be clear.
And you need to take that initiative and, like you said, comment on posts, join groups, read newsletters and make a comment, and reach out to your network and say, hey, I know we haven't chatted in a while. This is what I was doing. This is what I'm going for. If you know anyone, please think of me. Just that message. It doesn't need to be super needy and one sided. It can just be a, hey, I'm going through this kind of rough time, or I'm looking for this new change. Do you know anyone? That's what a network is for.
Exactly. And the one post isn't going to do it. You need to load your calendar with as many conversations as possible because every conversation, the goal is to get the next conversation and another referral. Even
Hmm.
my college son who's just graduating, he's getting this message. He was applying to things. I'm like, dude, your mom is a career coach. Are you kidding me? That's spray and pray. You're not going to get seen and you're not going to get heard. And so he shifted his mindset and, both my husband and I are coaching him up and saying, okay, you got to get the next referral. He understands that now. And he's asking, who else should I be talking to? Who do you recommend that what company should I be targeting other than yours? So being engaged, being a curious learner and asking for the hard things.
Hmm. As a career coach and all of your experience in corporate and all of this, what made you decide to write this book? Was it because you found this need and you saw people making mistakes that you just wanted to help them with?
Absolutely. It might have been that burning desire that you had when you wrote your book as well. Shannon, there gets to be a point where you have these frameworks that you have applied over time and you know they work and you want to help people with it. And so this is about birthing a baby and saying, hey, world, this can really help you. You and I are not going to make a lot of money at all on book sales. That is not
Right.
what this is about. This is about helping as many people as possible. And my tribe are going to be job seekers. And some
Hmm.
people get a little nervous about the book and its contents being that I usually coach leaders from 40 to 69 who have any kind of leadership role. Doesn't have to be a CXO. My frameworks apply to a college grad. My kid is using this. My other son's friends who are applying for jobs, they're reading chapters 1 through 5 and creating their UVP. It all applies.
Wow.
Same as with you. You and I are both UMAP certified coaches, and we
Yes.
both really believe in the strengths and understanding our values and how it ties to what we do in the world. All of the stuff in this book applies for a career transition, no matter what level a person is at.
Okay, that is so key. And I'm glad you brought that up because any listener who is listening and knows someone, I feel like we all know probably 5 to 10 people who have been let go. You just want to help them. I just had a conversation over coffee this morning with a friend whose husband is almost 50 and got let go from a really big bank in New York City. And he's just not hearing back. And he's like, I think it's my age. I think it's this. I think it's that. So he needs to shift his mindset and we were having conversations, what can he do? So this is going to be a book I gift him to help him because sometimes, especially as we get older, we're so stuck in our ways that we have to be willing to step out of that and help ourselves. And you're not going to be able to work one on one with everyone, but this book will be that tool that can really reach so many more people.
If the reader is willing to do the hard work, they will get there. But it is hard work. It is a lot of hard work. But chapters 1 through 5 read like a workbook. What they're going to hear from me are real stories from clients, anonymized. They're
Hmm.
going to hear what it is they need to do and why. And then I explain how. So every
Perfect.
chapter will read that way and it builds, builds, builds until chapter 5. They literally have my framework for how to answer, tell me about yourself.
That's the hardest question sometimes to make it concise and clear and get all of your points out.
100% exactly. Right.
Wow.
And I just wrote an article. So I'm a Forbes Coaches Council contributor. I've been contributing about 2 years now. And I just submitted my next article. So by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be out in the world. And currently, the working title is Your Elevator Pitch is Costing You Opportunities. Right? Yeah, I saw your face. Here's the reason why. Marketing and branding experts go, you need to have an elevator pitch. Well, what does an elevator pitch make you feel like you need to do? Sell yourself.
Mm,
Here's the twist. You need to create a unique value proposition. So you position yourself as a business solution. You're a solution to a company's problem. Now, you answer, tell me about yourself to a hiring manager or a recruiter who does not know you, and you do a catchy phrase, I help leaders and teams do blah, blah, blah. That's not good information. You need to do a quick highlights reel at the mature levels, 3 to 5 minutes max.
mhm.
And it's hitting the high points you've already worked on, chapters 1 through 4, that help that listener understand how you fit into their organization based on the opening that they have going on right there. And the
Mm.
reason and the inspiration for this book ultimately got unlocked when I ran a CEO search. The first line of my book, Shannon, is I asked, tell me about yourself. And he was still talking 20 minutes later.
Oh no. Yeah.
If you can't give the highlights reel that connects context and relevance, you're missing the boat. It's not a
Mhm.
30-second elevator ride. It is an opportunity to explain the unique value you bring. And if you're confusing that with a catchy catchphrase that you're spending hours on, you're going to have a miss. Do you
Yeah.
agree?
I do agree. It needs to be specific for that company and you solving that company's problem. And then you can twist it for the next one and the next one, but just babbling on something that's generic that could go to any company is not going to make you stand out.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And then that backs into my chapter 7 is on interview prep. It's my specific framework I use, and now I'm calling it the rare candidate, which is you've got to do your research, right? And
Hmm.
then you need to read the room and evaluate the opportunity, and then you need to be preparing to have the conversation that's relevant to the decision maker. And I give a very specific way of doing that research and what you need to research before you go into those interviews. And it will scale in the amount of time that you spend. If you're early career, like my son, he's spending, an hour or two to prepare for something because there's only so much, he's going to bring to the party at this point at 20.
True.
But my senior executives that are in their 50s and they're swinging for the fences with a global VP role at a multi-billion dollar company, 40 hours of prep and no less, 40
Yeah.
to win the job. And sometimes it requires finalist presentations, and that's additional time.
That's huge. And it's funny because I keep thinking that people now are doing the spray and pray, and they're just trying to almost take the easy way out. And the way you're describing things now is no, you have to put that effort in and not just spray and pray and hope that someone reaches out. You need to be specific on what you're applying for, and then even more specific when you're prepping for that in-person meeting if
Mhm.
you truly want the job, if that's how you're going to stand out.
Absolutely. And I think that the scariest thing for a job seeker's mindset to get into is I applied, I was qualified, I'm waiting for a call now.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get a call about 1 to 2% of the time at the senior levels. Maybe. If you're not applying on day 1 or 2 ahead of all the hundreds,
Hmm.
you're guessing on the hiring manager. At the senior levels, it's less hard to figure that out. If you're applying for a VP level job that may be reporting to the CEO, that's the decision maker. Buck stops there, and maybe the
Yeah.
board, right? Or and you work your way down. Who else are decision makers? Heads of talent acquisition, or the lead recruiter of that everyone's a decision maker who touches that process. So
Oh,
you need
yeah.
to start reaching out so you can get seen. If you don't get seen, you don't get heard.
Mm. You're packing everything into this book, and this book is for people who find themselves out of work and looking, or can it also be for those executives, those VPs who maybe have a job, but they want to figure out how to get that next one?
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking that question. Yes. So part of what I do in my career velocity program is I created a little lesson. I call it write and pitch your own job description. And the reason why I wrote this as a standalone, it's actually not outlined specifically in my book. But what I've done is I've helped people who want to advance in their own companies. They may come to me and say, I really love my company. I may want to position outward, but I want to first vie for something upward.
Hmm.
And if I don't get that opportunity, I will have already worked with you to lay the groundwork to bounce and go outward, right? And so I've had a number of cool success stories coming up with that, what that ideal job description is that wraps around their toolkit
Yeah.
so that they know what they're saying to position themselves. So we do the UVP work. We already know their unique value proposition, but it's in conjunction with what they want to do and how that role will help solve a problem. It's not all about them, right? You get into a
Right.
service mindset. So I was working with one senior leader at a multi-billion dollar global company that's very popular, and I will not say the name, and she was angling upward, had no intention of leaving. And by the time we got done doing that UVP work and sort of just getting the language and the confidence about asking for what he
Right.
wanted, she's now a Section 16 on the executive team. That means you have legal and corporate responsibilities. She made it. She made it to the
Wow.
top. Another gentleman I worked with was leading 5 continuous improvement front linemen, if you will, at a plant, but he also had an audience with the GM of this 50-person plant. And so he was having these strategic conversations. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? He had a job description already built out for himself, but he hadn't
Mhm.
pitched it yet. But he was talking the talk. When the GM got promoted away, the regional VP reached all the way down to this frontline leader and pulled him up, and he became the GM of the plant
Wow.
because my client was already speaking that language. He was already puffing up and posturing and saying the right things
Yeah.
and got noticed.
I think that lesson is prepare ahead of time. You can be sitting so pretty at your job, but I think what history is showing us this past year or so is that nothing is certain. Nothing is as stable as it was decades ago. So maybe start looking, start thinking, start preparing, work with Gina, and then start getting yourself ready in case that axe drops.
1,000%.
Mhm.
What I say, and I think I said it already today, is don't wait to get plucked out of obscurity. I was working at
Mhm.
Intel for about 10 years and I ran into this exact wall. And that's why I'm super passionate about saying don't wait to get plucked and
Yeah.
noticed because nobody is coming for you. You might be the one golden child who a sponsor picks under their wing and promotes. That's what a
Yeah.
sponsor does is they speak about you when you're not in the room and they get you promoted into those roles. But that doesn't happen for most people. You have to ask for it. You have to seek out mentors and advice, and you have to start building out like scaffolding so
Mhm.
that you have choices.
So smart. I think there's probably a lot of people that you and I have both spoken to that find themselves in these, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? I was let go. Now I feel lost. So, if anything, your book is really a tool to help anyone really figure out that next step and to get that confidence and that mindset in the right place to be able to apply, get noticed, and hopefully get the job.
Absolutely. And the way we get noticed, Shannon, is we've got to have the conversations.
Yeah.
And we can't be scared of the word networking. It's relationship building. And actually, in my book, in chapter 8, I talk about job search strategy. And there's a couple of different things, but one of the things I put in there were a couple of frameworks to start conversations. Because what do we all think when we first are like, oh God, I got to have conversations. What am I going to talk about?
Yeah.
And oh, do I really have to do a lot of research before I have each conversation? Yes, you have to do some research, but I give you a couple of back pocket frameworks. For example, if I was having a brand new conversation, I could use a SWOT, which is thinking about, okay, I wonder what the strengths and the weaknesses and the opportunities and threats are at this company. And I wouldn't ask a new person, like, what are the weaknesses of your company, but
Yeah.
frame it a little different. But guess what? If you ask, what are the opportunities your company is trying to seize right now? And what is threatening success? Now we have something interesting. We now know where we might be able to plug a hole and
Right.
position our UVP to plug the hole. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, asking the right questions. And that comes from doing that research. I love that.
Exactly. You put on
Brilliant.
a consultant's hat
Yeah.
and you're diagnosing what those issues are so you can pull the right tools from your Swiss Army knife and put those forward first. The
Mm,
worst thing that people can do is say, I've done it all, I've seen it all, put me in, coach, I'll figure it out.
yeah.
People will not select you if you say that because they will be confused and they will keep moving because you're saying
Mm.
nothing.
Gina, I just love this so much. I feel like you're helping so many people in a time that we really need it. Your book is honestly, it's coming out at such a great time
Yeah.
to really serve a lot of people on top of your speaking engagements and your coaching and everything you're doing. Where can people reach out to you and connect with you? Where are all the places?
Yeah. So the easiest places, one, Gina Riley Consulting.com. And then the second place, I'm on LinkedIn like you. I'm on LinkedIn all day, every day. So it's simple, Gina Riley. You can find me there. If you heard me on Shanna's podcast, send me a personal connection request and let me know you heard me here. I
Yeah,
love it when people do that, don't you? Like
I do.
it's
Yeah.
context, right?
Hmm.
And I also have free offerings like a strategy guide where people can start mapping out their career transition plan. I have very economical offerings. And then the book is like the starting point. Just get the book and get started. Just
Yeah.
read the intro and you'll see what's ahead of you. And if you're not willing to do the work, it might not be the right thing. I mean, because
Yeah.
one of my girlfriends who's a career coach who I admire greatly, I showed her the cover, the design as I was going through the
Hmm.
process and the title, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I like it because it looks like a lot of work, and I don't like work." It is because it's kind of a workbook.
It just means there's so much good stuff to take away from it.
I,
Like
I
you just packed it.
I think so. And you and I are again big fans of the UMAP. In
Hmm.
chapter 1, I was so grateful that Kristen Sherry, our friend and
Yes.
creator of the UMAP, she actually has a discount code for people who take the UMAP. So when you buy the book, there's a little discount in there for people who use the UMAP because I'm such a big fan. I couldn't remove that from the process because I believe
Mm-mm.
in it so much. So it is
Yeah.
an investment. There's a couple investments. There's the book, there's the UMAP at a discount, and then there's a couple of books that I recommend that dovetail with all of my teachings.
That's great. And I'll link to everything in the show notes. And before we say goodbye, I just want to get your advice for someone who is planning a career transition. And that can be going into another role in corporate or maybe venturing into business, like some of my listeners. You've done it, you've changed jobs, you've built a business. Now you're helping others. What advice can you share?
I think it first starts with you. It first starts
Mm.
with you. So one is getting centered on your value proposition in the market as it stands today. And then the second piece is you need to do the exploration to find out what you want to target. And so you mentioned, well, what if people are switching careers? Because there's a
Mhm.
difference between I'm just trying to get the next higher level of what I already do
Right.
compared to what I call a career switcher. And sometimes I call that like career pathing. So you work with people who thought, oh, I'll get another corporate job, but then the light bulb goes on. These are the people I want to send to you, Shannon, right? For your
Right.
business, the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, I want to start a business. I want to be a consultant, or I want to, whatever that looks like. But you need to have conversations to inform what that's going to look like for you and if it's a good match. And I think a lot of people fool themselves about the glory of what that could be. So talking to someone like you,
Mhm.
who's been there and done that and started a business, that's a really smart thing. If you're looking for a career switch, I'm going from corporate to nonprofit. A lot of people in corporate think, I'm done with my corporate career. I'm going to be a savior at a nonprofit. Well, let me tell you, after doing CEO searches for nonprofits, the first question is, well, where have you been? Where have
Mhm.
you been the last 30 years? Why would we hire you when you don't have any footprint in our space or any volunteer efforts, etc.?
Yeah.
That is a very difficult chasm to cross. Also
Mhm.
for nonprofit, they don't, and trying to go into corporate because, there's more money to be made generally, etc.
Yeah.
You have to translate your skills going both ways.
Yeah.
So get centered in your UVP, tie it
UVPs.
to the target, and speak the language of the future decision maker. That is what will ensure success for you.
So well said. Thank you, Gina Riley. You are so incredible. I love you so much. And I thank you for everything you shared. You just threw so much amazing advice to us. So thank you. And again, Gina's book, Qualified is Not Enough, is out now. So, so excited for you. Thank you, Gina.